I never thought twice about using public restrooms until what happened to me at a rest stop off Interstate 40 in New Mexico. Now I hold it until I'm practically in pain before I'll step foot in one of those places again. It was around 2 in the morning, and I was driving cross-country from California to Texas for a job interview. The highway was completely dead. I hadn't seen another car in probably 30 minutes. My gas tank was fine, but my bladder wasn't, so when I saw the sign for a rest area in 5 miles, I felt genuine relief. The rest stop was one of those older ones. You know the type. Concrete building with flickering fluorescent lights, surrounded by empty parking spaces and way too many trees. There was one other car in the lot when I pulled in. A white sedan parked far from the building, windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. Something about it felt off, but I was tired and really needed to go. The men's bathroom was at the end of a dimly lit hallway. Half the lights were out, and the ones that worked were buzzing like angry wasps. The door creaked when I pushed it open, and the smell hit me immediately. That mix of industrial cleaner and something stale underneath it. There were 6 stalls total. The first 2 had out-of-order signs taped to the doors. The third one's door was hanging crooked on broken hinges. I walked past them all and went to the one at the very end, furthest from the entrance. I don't know why. Maybe I thought it would be cleaner. Maybe I just wanted privacy. I locked the stall door behind me and immediately noticed how quiet it was. The buzzing lights from the hallway didn't reach back here. It was just silence. Heavy silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. I was halfway through when I heard the bathroom door open, deliberate footsteps on the tile floor. They stopped. Then started again, like someone was walking, then pausing to listen. I held my breath and waited for the sound of another stall door opening or a urinal flushing. Nothing. The footsteps just continued that same pattern, getting closer to my stall. Then they stopped completely, right outside my door. I could see 2 shadows under the gap at the bottom of the stall. Feet. Someone was standing directly in front of my stall, not moving. Just standing there. I waited for them to say something, to knock, to do anything normal. But they just stood there in complete silence. My heart was hammering. I cleared my throat, trying to make it clear someone was in here. The person didn't move. Didn't make a sound. Just stood there. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The shadows under the door weren't shaped like normal feet. They were too long. Too thin. And they were pointing sideways, parallel to the stall door, like the person was standing with their side pressed against it. I finished up as quietly as possible, trying not to make any sound. My hands were shaking. The shadows didn't move. I counted to 10, hoping they'd leave. They didn't. I had no choice. I had to open the door eventually. I unlocked it slowly, trying to be silent, and pushed it open just a crack. Nobody was there. The bathroom was empty. I could see all the way to the entrance. There was nowhere for someone to hide that quickly. Unless they'd gone into one of the other stalls, but I would have heard a door. I practically ran out of that bathroom, down the hallway, and back to my car. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my keys twice trying to unlock the door. That's when I looked up and saw the white sedan. It was still parked in the same spot, but now the driver's side door was wide open. The interior light was on, illuminating an empty driver's seat. I didn't wait around to see who or what would come back to that car. I started my engine and got back on the highway going 20 over the speed limit. Here's the thing that still haunts me. About 10 miles down the road, I checked my rearview mirror. The white sedan was behind me. Not close, but close enough that I could see it clearly under the occasional streetlight. It followed me for 47 miles. I know because I counted every single mile marker, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. It stayed exactly the same distance behind me the entire time. Never got closer. Never fell back. Just maintained that exact same gap. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone. I checked my mirror and the road behind me was empty. I don't know if it turned off or just disappeared, but it was gone. I made it to Texas, got the job, and moved out there permanently. But I've driven that stretch of Interstate 40 dozens of times since then for work, and I've never stopped at that rest area again. In fact, I avoid it completely. I'll get off at the exit before and find a gas station, even if it takes me 30 minutes out of my way. Last year, out of morbid curiosity, I did some research on that rest stop. Turns out there have been multiple reports over the years of people experiencing strange things there. Footsteps in empty bathrooms. Shadows that don't match up. And several people have mentioned a white sedan with tinted windows in the parking lot. But here's what really got me. I found a news article from 15 years ago. A man went missing from that exact rest stop. His car was found in the parking lot, driver's door open, keys still in the ignition. They never found him. His car was a white sedan. I don't use public restrooms at night anymore. And I definitely don't use rest stops. I'll drive until I find a brightly lit gas station with other people around. Call me paranoid, but after what I experienced, I'm not taking any chances. Sometimes late at night when I'm driving alone, I still check my rearview mirror obsessively. Part of me is terrified I'll see that white sedan again, maintaining that same exact distance behind me. The other part of me wonders what would have happened if I'd opened that stall door faster. What would have been standing there? I don't think I want to know the answer to that question. I used to work at a large corporate office building in downtown Chicago. The kind with 20 floors, hundreds of employees, and bathrooms on every level. I worked on the 17th floor in accounting, and I'd been there for about 3 years when this happened. Our floor had 2 women's restrooms. One near the elevators that everyone used, and one at the far end of the hall that barely anyone went to because it was out of the way. I preferred the second one. It was always empty, always quiet, and I could take my breaks there without running into coworkers who wanted to chat. It was a Friday afternoon in October. I remember because we were getting ready for the company Halloween party that weekend. I'd been staring at spreadsheets for 4 hours straight and needed a break. I grabbed my phone and headed to the far bathroom. The hallway back there was always dimly lit. The motion sensor lights never seemed to work properly, so it stayed in this perpetual twilight. I pushed open the bathroom door and immediately felt that familiar sense of solitude. The bathroom had 4 stalls, all empty as usual. I went into the second stall from the end, my usual spot, and locked the door. I was scrolling through my phone, not really paying attention, when I heard the main door open. Footsteps clicked across the tile. High heels. They stopped at the sink. I heard the water run for a few seconds, then stop. Then nothing. Just silence. I figured someone was fixing their makeup or something, so I went back to my phone. That's when I heard it. Singing. Quiet, soft singing. A woman's voice humming a melody I didn't recognize. It was pretty at first. Almost soothing. But then I realized something was off about it. The melody never changed. It was the same 6 or 7 notes, over and over and over again. And the voice had this strange quality to it. Flat. Emotionless. Like someone singing in their sleep. I looked under the stall divider, trying to see who was out there. I could see a pair of black high heels standing at the sink. They weren't moving. Just standing there while this woman hummed the same notes endlessly. I decided to wait her out. Maybe she was having a weird day. Maybe she was on medication. I don't know. I just wanted her to leave so I could leave. But she didn't leave. The humming continued. Same notes. Same flat tone. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. My leg was falling asleep. I shifted positions and my shoe scraped against the floor. The humming stopped immediately. Complete silence. I held my breath. The shoes at the sink didn't move. Then, slowly I heard footsteps again. But this time they were walking toward the stalls. Toward my stall. I watched under the gap as those black heels moved closer. They stopped right in front of my door. A shadow appeared in the crack between the door and the frame. Someone was looking in. I could see part of an eye pressed against the gap, staring at me. My heart was pounding so hard I thought she could probably hear it. I wanted to say something, to tell her to back off, but my throat was completely closed up. Then she started knocking. Not normal knocking. Rhythmic tapping. The same rhythm as the melody she'd been humming. Tap 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 tap. Over and over. Matching those same 6 or 7 notes exactly. I pulled my feet up onto the toilet seat, some instinct telling me not to let her see them under the door. The tapping continued. Then I heard her move to the stall next to mine. The door slowly creaked open. She'd gone into the stall beside me. I could see her black heels through the gap at the bottom of the divider. She was just standing there. Not using the toilet. Not doing anything. Just standing. Then she started tapping on the divider wall between us. The same rhythm. Tap 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 tap. Right next to my head. The metal divider vibrated with each knock. I was frozen. Completely paralyzed with fear. I wanted to run, but she was between me and the exit. I'd have to pass her stall to get out. The tapping stopped. I heard her move again. The stall door opened and closed. Footsteps walked back toward the sinks. I waited, listening. Then the humming started again. Same melody. Same flat, emotionless tone. But this time, there were words mixed in. I couldn't make them all out, but I caught fragments. She sees me. Behind the door. Can't leave. She sees me. I made a decision. I unlocked my stall as quietly as possible, pushed the door open, and ran. I didn't look at her. Didn't even glance in her direction. I just bolted for the exit. I heard her laugh as I ran. Not a normal laugh. A child's laugh. High-pitched and delighted, like she thought this was the funniest game in the world. I burst through the bathroom door and ran straight to my desk. My coworker Sarah looked up, startled. She asked if I was okay. I was pale and shaking. I told her there was a weird woman in the bathroom. Sarah offered to go check with me. We walked back together. I felt braver with someone else there. We pushed open the bathroom door. It was empty. All the stall doors were open. Nobody at the sinks. Nobody anywhere. Sarah checked every stall. Nothing. She asked me what the woman looked like. I realized I didn't know. I'd never actually looked at her face. Just her shoes and that eye peering through the crack. Sarah tried to reassure me. Maybe the woman had left while I was getting her. Maybe I was stressed and misinterpreted something innocent. I wanted to believe her. But then Sarah froze. She was standing at the sink, looking down. She called me over. On the counter, written in soap or lotion or something white and foamy, were words, "I see you too." We reported it to building security. They checked the cameras in the hallway. Here's the thing. The footage showed me entering the bathroom alone. Nobody else went in. Nobody came out except me. Security suggested maybe someone had written that message earlier in the day and we just noticed it. But Sarah had used that bathroom an hour before I did. It hadn't been there. I requested a desk transfer to a different floor. They approved it within a week. I never went back to that bathroom. I never even went down that hallway again. But about a month later, I ran into Sarah in the lobby. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me. She pulled me aside and told me something that made my blood run cold. She said that ever since that day, sometimes when she's in any bathroom in the building, she hears humming. The same melody. She'll be alone, completely alone, and she'll hear it coming from one of the stalls. When she checks, nobody's there. She asked me if I'd heard it too. I lied and said no. But the truth is I had. Twice. Once in the bathroom on my new floor, and once in a restaurant bathroom 3 blocks from the office. Same 6 or 7 notes. Same flat, emotionless tone. And once, just once, I heard the words again. She sees me. Possibility of hearing those notes again. Because I'm terrified of what might happen if I hear that melody and I'm alone. Terrified of what I might see if I look in the mirror at the wrong moment. Some things you can't escape. And I think she's one of them. I quit that job 2 months later. Told them it was for better opportunities, but really I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take the fear of walking into a bathroom and hearing that humming start up. It's been 2 years now. I work from home. And I know how crazy this sounds, but sometimes, late at night when the apartment is quiet, I swear I can hear it. Faint. Distant. Like it's coming from far away. That same melody. Those same notes. And I wonder if maybe I didn't run away from her that day in the bathroom. Maybe I took something with me. Maybe she followed me out. I'm a truck driver. I've been doing long-haul routes for almost 15 years now, driving from coast to coast, sleeping in rest stops, eating at diners that all look the same. You see a lot of weird stuff when you spend your life on the road. But nothing prepared me for what happened at a truck stop outside of Amarillo, Texas. It was late July, middle of summer. Heat so thick you could practically chew it. I'd been driving for 11 hours and needed to stop before I fell asleep at the wheel. I pulled into a truck stop just off the highway. Big place, 24-hour services, rows of parked semis. Pretty standard. I parked my rig, grabbed my toiletry bag, and headed inside. The main building was bright and busy. People getting coffee, buying snacks, using the ATM, normal late-night truck stop crowd. The bathrooms were down a long hallway past the showers and laundry room. The men's room was one of those industrial setups. Gray concrete walls, harsh fluorescent lighting, a row of about 8 stalls. A few urinals. Everything built to take a beating. There were 2 other guys in there when I walked in. One at a urinal, one washing his hands. They both left within a minute. I went into one of the middle stalls. I was in there maybe 2 minutes when I heard someone else come in. Heavy footsteps. Work boots on concrete. The footsteps stopped. Then I heard breathing. Loud, labored breathing. Like someone who just run a marathon. I figured it was another trucker, probably exhausted like me. But the breathing didn't stop. It didn't calm down. It just continued, ragged and wet sounding. And whoever it was, they weren't moving. Just standing there, breathing. I finished up and opened my stall door. The bathroom was empty. Every other stall door was open, showing empty stalls. Nobody at the urinals. Nobody at the sinks. Just me. But I could still hear the breathing. It was coming from the stall at the very end. The door was closed. I could see the occupied indicator showing red. I walked closer, telling myself it was just someone in there, even though the breathing sounded wrong. Too harsh. Too strained. I called out, asked if whoever was in there was okay. The breathing stopped immediately. Complete silence. I waited for a response. Nothing. Then I heard a scraping sound. Metal on concrete. Like something being dragged across the floor. It was coming from inside that end stall. The occupied indicator switched to vacant. Green. The door was still closed, but according to the lock, the stall was empty. I should have left right then. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to get out of there. But I'd been on the road too long. I'd seen too many broken locks and busted indicators. I convinced myself it was just a malfunction. I walked up to that stall and pushed the door open. The stall was empty, but on the back wall, someone had scratched words into the paint. Fresh scratches. I could see where the paint had been scraped away, showing the gray concrete underneath. The words said, "He's still here." My hands started shaking. I backed away from the stall and turned toward the exit. That's when all the stall doors slammed shut simultaneously. Every single one. Bang, 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 like dominoes falling. The sound echoed off the concrete walls. I ran, straight for the door. But before I could reach it, all the toilets flushed at once. Then the lights started flickering. On off, on off, on off. Strobing. In the split seconds of darkness between the flashes, I saw him. A figure standing in the corner. Tall. Impossibly tall. Shoulders hunched forward. In the flashes of light, he was there, then gone, then there again, each time a few feet closer. I slammed through the bathroom door and into the hallway. Kept running until I was back in the main area of the truck stop. People were staring at me. I probably looked insane. I went straight to the clerk at the counter. Asked her if there had been any problems with the men's bathroom. She looked confused. Said no, everything was fine. Asked if I needed help. I told her I was fine, just tired. Bought a coffee I didn't drink and went back to my truck. I sat in the cab for 20 minutes, trying to calm down, telling myself I'd been hallucinating from exhaustion. It was the only explanation that made sense. But I couldn't shake the image of that figure. The way it moved in the stuttering light. The way it got closer every time the lights went out. I decided to get back on the road. I'd drive another hour and find a different place to rest. I started my engine and began pulling out of the parking spot. That's when I saw him in my side mirror. The tall figure. Standing between two parked semis watching me. Even in the amber parking lot lights, I couldn't make out any features. Just a dark silhouette. Too tall. Wrong proportions. I hit the gas harder than I needed to and got back on the highway. I drove for 3 hours straight before I felt safe enough to stop again. The next day, I looked up that truck stop online. I found a forum where drivers share information about different stops along their routes. I searched for mentions of that specific location. There were dozens of posts. Dozens. People reporting strange experiences in that bathroom. Shadows that moved on their own. Stall doors locking from the inside. The sound of breathing when nobody else was there. And multiple people mentioned seeing a tall figure, always in the periphery, always in the dark spaces between the lights. One post from 6 years ago caught my attention. A driver reported that back in the 80s, a man had died in that bathroom. Heart attack in one of the stalls. The way the post described it, the man had been found 3 days later because that end stall's lock had been broken, showing vacant even when it was occupied. Nobody had thought to check it. The post said the man had been over 7 feet tall. Worked at a local warehouse. People said they'd see him at that truck stop all the time, always using that same end stall because he needed the extra space. I've driven past that truck stop probably 40 times since then. I've never stopped there again. Not for gas. Not for food. Not for anything. I'll drive an extra 100 miles to avoid it. Other drivers have asked me why I skip it. It's got good fuel prices. Clean facilities. Good food. I just tell them I prefer other stops. I don't tell them the real reason. Because how do you explain that you saw something that shouldn't exist? How do you tell someone that a dead man is still using that bathroom, still trapped in the same routine he had when he was alive? A few months ago, another driver told me that truck stop was being renovated. They were gutting the whole bathroom area, updating everything. I felt this weird sense of relief. Maybe the renovation would change things. Maybe it would end whatever was happening there. Last week, I saw a post on that same forum. The renovations were complete. New stalls. New lights. Everything modern and updated. But drivers were already reporting the same experiences. The breathing. The slamming doors. The tall figure in the dark. Some things, I guess, don't need walls or stalls or buildings. They just need a place. A spot where something happened. And that spot becomes theirs forever, no matter what you do to it. I still drive past there regularly. Sometimes, late at night when the highway is empty, I think about stopping. About going back into that bathroom. About seeing if he's still there. But I never do. Because I remember that last glimpse in my mirror. The way he stood there watching me leave. And I remember thinking, even in my panic, that he looked lonely. Like he was hoping I'd stay. I don't know what would happen if I went back. If I walked into that end stall and closed the door. If I waited there in the dark. But I think he's still waiting. Still hoping someone will stay with him. And I'm terrified that one day, my curiosity will win. One day I'll stop. I'll go back. And maybe I won't leave.